It was certainly not an easy choice for Dooku to betray everything that he knew and join the dark side, allying himself with the Sith, the man that killed Qui-Gon Jinn. By doing so, Dooku would spend the rest of his years at war with the Republic, a Republic he once protected, vying for the destruction of the Jedi Order that he grew up with. And while Dooku did have many justifiable reasons for leaving the Jedi Order, it seems odd that he would also abandon his beliefs in the light side and join the path of the dark, especially since he was an older man by then and had spent all of his life as a Jedi. However, something strange happened with Dooku, and we learned that his philosophy with the Force was the same as his political outlook. Balance and freedom must be achieved by any means necessary, and it would seem that Darth Tyrannus would continue with this belief even as a Sith Lord, believing that he achieved true balance and freedom in the Force as a Darksider. In the Legends novel Labyrinth of Evil, we get a quote by Dooku that explains his outlook on the dark side, and why Dooku believes he was now in balance because of it. So today, my friends and acolytes, let's break down this quote and discuss the legitimacy of Dooku's claim that perhaps the dark side was the balance that the galaxy needed. Here is the quote. The Jedi Order had seen to it that the dark side of the Force had become equated with evil. But was shade more evil than stark sunlight? Dooku recognized that the dark side was on the ascendant. The Jedi in the service of the Force should have known enough to embrace this. After all, it was all a matter of balance, and if the preservation of the balance required the dark side to be on top, then so be it. Although it is brief, this is a weighty comment when it comes to analyzing the truth of balance. It is certainly fascinating to get this perspective from a fallen Jedi, one who doesn't immediately discount the light side. What I find fascinating, though, is unlike many Sith, Dooku's grievances are hardly ever aimed directly at the light side of the Force, but rather the Jedi. And more importantly, the Jedi and their dogmatic view on the light and the dark side and how they view the dark as evil. Dooku would first break down the Jedi's definition of evil by giving us an enlightening word picture by comparing the light and dark to sunlight and shade. This argument is constructed brilliantly. Dooku points out that it would be foolish to say that shade would be evil in comparison to sunlight, especially since sunlight casts a shadow of its own. The meaning behind this quote is clear. Just as there can't be an absence of shadow when in the bright light, so too can the Force never be without the dark side while the light is also there. They are two sides of the Force itself. Both are necessary, but what the Jedi fail to believe is that the dark should ever be on top. This idea of balance is backed up by historical sages. A group Dooku certainly would have enjoyed the company of was the primordial ancestors of the Jedi, known as the Jedi Order. In the days of antiquity, before the Republic was ever formed, the first Jedi were sages on Tython who were beholden to the mystical energy of the Force. They learned of the light side, which they called Ashla, and because of the white moon by the same name which orbited Tython, this is the name they gave the light side of the Force. And the home planet of the Jedi yet had another moon, Bogan, which was the black moon representing the dark side. What's crucial though is that if either of these are out of balance, Tython would respond in kind with violent lightning storms and earthquakes until balance was again restored. In these days, balance was not a choice or a philosophy, but a necessity for survival. Though the Jedi decided to use this as an opportunity for enlightenment by meditating on the principle of balance, the two moons must always be in balance despite their contentious relationship. Through guidance and trial and error, the Jedi were able to achieve this balance and understood what needed to be done if one went too far to the light or the dark. The Force wielders of this order of balance could heal someone with the Force and shoot lightning with the same hand. They were truly a mystifying order. In this circumstance, Dooku would be absolutely correct regarding what he said about the sunlight and the shade. But although this argument does hold water, Count Dooku is unfortunately off the deep end. He speaks of balance, but we can't discount the fact that he still calls himself a Sith and is holding the dark side in a place firmly above the light. He says that if balance is achieved with the dark side on top, then so be it. The decision ultimately contradicts everything he said regarding sunlight and shade though, revealing to us that Dooku is still blind to the seduction of the darkness. According to his new principles, the dark side is an avenue for balance, which in this regard, Dooku is correct, but his mistake is that he has completely ignored the light. He has become a being of suffering, which is the antithesis of the Force. This is not to say that the Force disapproves of killing, Qui-Gon himself killed freely when he felt that it was the will of the Force, but Dooku's actions are in blatant disregard for life or prosperity of the innocent. While Dooku believes in justice and order, he makes compromises along the way that punctuate all kinds of holes into his noble cause. In the same chapter, the Count gives us a little more reason behind his decision to join the Sith. He says this: "The Sith understood that the elitism and the mobsterism of the Republic could be ended only by bringing the diverse beings of the galaxy under the control of a single hand. The galaxy can only be saved from itself through the imposition of order." The irony of this quote is that the Sith highly promote elitism, and the empire that Dooku helped craft certainly did this. But Dooku was far more noble than Sidious. He was a proponent of integrity in politics, especially when it came to doing good for the larger galaxy. Dooku's primary reasoning for leaving the Jedi and joining the Sith has to do with his hatred towards corruption. Dooku believed that the Jedi completely lacked the vision to deal with the corruption that was happening in the Senate. Palpatine openly showed Dooku that he, as a Sith Lord, had completely taken over the Republic with ease, and the Jedi did not even know it because of their lack of vision. While Dooku did not agree with the Sith way at first, he knew that he always had been drawn towards the dark side. Tired of denying himself what he craved, Dooku gave in so that he could use his newfound powers to weed out corruption, enforcing order. He would heavily criticize Yoda for becoming complacent to the sickness of greed and the evils of the Senate. But now, Lord Tyrannus had a plan that Yoda would have never achieved. Unfortunately though, Dooku proved to be naive in both his assessment of the dark side as well as his trust in the Sith. The issue comes with the fact that Dooku is an idealist, and Sidious simply appealed to that side of him. We watch in Tales of the Jedi as even Dooku in the light is ready to slaughter someone he believes needs to be brought to justice. We see as he attempts to kill the Prime Minister in the first episode, while menacingly breathing the words, "Corruption like yours should be eradicated." Dooku is clear here, but Sidious is able to easily manipulate him, showing him how ineffective and weak the Jedi have become. But he also sells Dooku on the way the Sith use the dark side to be a necessity, and even noble. He sells it as something as natural as shadow cast from sunlight. And just like that, Dooku went from a misguided hero to a warmongerer. His statement about the dark side being the key to balance was true in the practical sense, but Dooku never strived for balance. He strived for an excuse to wield the dark side in a way that he had always desired, for his own ideas of truth and justice to reign above everybody else's. And in the end, the Count was led astray. But anyway, my friends, it is always exciting to talk over the more character aspects of our favorite fallen Jedi. But what do you think? How did Dooku's ideas on the Sith and the dark side influence how you feel about his turn? Let us know your thoughts on Dooku and his complexity in the comments down below. And as always, may the Force be with you.